So, yeah, we'll let others join anyway. I'm recording, so if they want to hear this, see, one of the things I don't want to claim to be a regenerative agriculture expert. I am possibly less equipped to talk about regenerative agriculture than any one of you here. But what I understood about regenerative agriculture from a business model perspective, from a supply chain perspective, is what I will try and discuss today. And in that context, I have a business case which is Puris Foods. So they are into regenerative agriculture for a long period of time and they do it successfully. So now, from this exercise or from this case, we can learn how regenerative agriculture can work for our context, right? Or when it will become successful, what are the principles we need to have for the regenerative agriculture to be successful? Why is Purist Foods successful? Now they have gone into, I think, 2 generations or 3 generations this business. So now we'll try and understand the principles using our business model framework, but also to study this business. So this is the business story of Puris. So they, as you can see, they started in 1985. So it's already 40 years into this business. But they started. The reason is they started with a basic production kind of innovation, which is around breeding and disease resistant seeds. So the climate resistance, what we talk about, it has been the foundation of this company in terms of building seeds and genetics around seeds. So now, what when they have been looking at disease resistance, crop rotation has been one of the main opportunities, or one of the main opportunities, which is when they started doing the pea cultivation. So when they were suggesting the pea cultivation, please mute yourself, please. Yeah. So when they have been doing the pea cultivation, that's when they have seen the principles, the opportunity to really get better in terms of productivity, in terms of yield, in terms of disease resistance. So basically, their core business was into soy production, but then they use LOPs as the rotation. So over a period of time, they built a network of growers, and they were contracting with these growers to sell in the market. But over a period of time, they have set up their own processing facilities to add value to the produce that they and their growers were producing: soy, pulses, lentils, and corn, basically. So you can see the crop rotation. While soy and corn are the main crops, they have these rotation crops as pulses and lentils, and they have used this as the base to build a processing, a value addition business, to make sure that their value chain or their buyer network is built around value addition. So not only did they innovate on the production side, but they have also innovated on the market side. Now you will see that. So this is the story of this. Now, before we get into the story of Puris, and then try and see which of the regenerative principles they cater to, let's try and understand how to go about regenerative agriculture. So regenerative agriculture may not be for every context, may not be for every farmer. So first, understanding the context and its relevance. So why these guys have been doing the crop rotation, or the kind of crop rotation that they have been doing, is because of the market side needs, and also because of the challenges they were seeing with respect to yield and productivity. So it's a combination of market side opportunity and also the challenges they were seeing on. So that was the context in which they build the business, and they build a successful business. So in a regenerative agriculture, if we have to assess it for a context in Africa, we have to see whether it is market driven or not. So that's what I would call as the first principle, understanding the context. And minimizing, so these are all technical principles, which is minimizing soil disturbance, which is why the crop rotation, maximize crop diversity. So this is the crop rotation principle, which is where the Puris was mainly focusing on. And not necessarily all the six principles need to be or would be in balance, for example, in any regenerative farm. So in this case, in the case of Puris Foods, it was mainly the core of that was increasing the crop diversity to meet the market needs, but also to increase the yield. So always remember, I'm stressing on the importance of the market opportunity. So no farmer will produce yellow peas or lentils if there was no market for that product, right? So Puris had to assure that. Keep the soil covered. So keeping the soil covered, I think technically you understand this much better than I do. Maintain living root year round. So this is another principle. So you can see that these are not like disruptive principles. They have been principles that have been followed in conventional agriculture, in agriculture that was very nature dependent agriculture. In two generations, three generations back, these were most of these principles were followed. Integrate livestock, and that is a very natural principle in many South Africa, in African farms, because livestock is an integral part of many smallholder farms, especially in India, but also I understood it's also the case in Tanzania as well. Now, basically, what is important for us to understand at this point is to just give an importance to, like, what problem are they trying to address on the demand side. So health and wellness, rise in allergies, food safety, ethics, and sustainability. So their main market is the United States, and in this United States, in their buyer network, these have been the prime drivers that have made them to produce what they are producing, and also process what they are processing. So it was all market driven initiative, right from the production of their basic product, which is soy, to crop drivers diversification, to processing, and all of this. So these are all four elements that are um, critical elements for all markets in different capacities. Of course, in the US, consumers' importance on each of these criteria could be very different. But um, I know in Africa now, health and wellness movement is also getting up. When I was there, I could see that rise in allergies, allergen-free products have been part of the supermarkets that I've witnessed. Food safety was a very important aspect. I could see that we discussed a lot when we discussed the livestock aspect, and ethics and sustainability. So this is where emerging markets are just catching up, but you will know that all these four principles are equally important for for the African consumers, are becoming important, if not equally important, for African consumers as much as the American consumers. So, and plant protein market is really growing. So, what Puris does is they use all their ingredients and processing to supply to this plant protein market. So, when you eat a vegetarian burger or a vegetarian meat, majority of that plant-based stuff is soy-based. So now they're coming up with corn-based, and there are lots of commodities that they are using. And so this company processes ingredients for the plant-based meat, uh, what I would call industry or category, so to speak. So, I mean, this is I mean, somebody must can take up the opportunity to let me know if plant-based meat is becoming very popular in Tanzania. Who would like to uh, help me with that? What is the situation of plant-based or interest in plant-based meat in Tanzania? So globally, this is growing. We know that, but how is the context in Tanzania? So is plant-based meat a big opportunity, or is it a growing trend in consumers? I have not seen that when I was there, so I'm just curious. Actually, do you have any understanding of that category from a market side? Yeah, yeah, that's right. Really, they're made from soy and other crops like corn based. There are now mushroom based. So they're using all kinds of they're trying all kinds of innovation. But yeah, predominantly it is soy based. Yes. They don't exist in Tanzania. So you're all real meat eaters, I guess. But I think in the emerging markets, the per capita meat consumption is anyway considerably lower. It's a little bit higher in Africa than in say for example in India or other countries where vegetarianism is a big deal. But I would say that the per capita meat consumption is increasing, but in certain markets where the affordability is increasing, the awareness for health and wellness is increasing, there the plant-based meats are picking up as well. So I would be surprised if in the high society Tanzanian markets, uh, if plant-based meat is not yet picking up, or at least starting to pick up, right? So it may not be a mainstream product yet, but it must be picking up. So they have a network of 400 growers, 200,000 acres. So 400 growers do 200,000 acres. So that means each grower does how many acres? 2000 by 4, so that is 500 acres per grower on an average. So that's considerably different, but again the principles is what. So these 400 growers are supplying to this factory here. So they have a new protein production facility. They have now three facilities for soy based stuff. They have now two soy based and I think one pea based. That's what I remember from my interview with. So a couple of our students work here. So we understood a little bit in detail about their business model. So here is just a slide. Possibly, I don't know if I really can explain you. So basically, it's from the planting to harvesting to factory to yeah. Here it is storage to going into silos, and then it is going into factory production. Then it is packed into a sort of a floor kind of a thing that goes into the plant-based meats basically, right? So about 11 steps, and each step I'm happy to share this presentation with you all so that you can read through and see what each step has. The most important aspect for us is to look into the business model development. So we start with the core target segment. So our organic pea protein market is expected to grow in the US. This is at 8% compound average, so CAGR. So that's considerable. Now, in this case, the food businesses that use plant-based protein ingredients for making food products. So there are companies that make readily made chilled and frozen products. So that's the main category of plant-based protein. So they make chilled products and frozen products. So the businesses that are making the chilled and the frozen products, end products, they use Puris's ingredients into it. So they use that as the base. So food businesses that use, so they are the main target customers. What they are offering them is efficiency and traceability because all their growers are their own contract growers. and that is a considerable differentiation. So they not only source from their own growers, but they also process it themselves. So they aggregate and process. So value add. Customization. So basically, the innovation in the plant based protein category is their product recipe, basically. So that's where one company is differentiating from the other. How is the bite? How is the feel? How is the flavor? How is the texture? And that is dependent very much on the composition. So Puris has expertise to work a little bit on how they should process the ingredient for different products, basically for their product recipe, so to speak. So they have a lot of in-house research and development capacity that can work with their customers to make sure that their ingredients are able to meet the requirements of their products, the end products of their customers. And the nutrition is a big aspect in this particular aspect. So now, when the plant-based protein is, because if you don't eat meat, for example, you lack protein in your diet, in your balanced diet. So now, how do you make sure that that protein is compensated if you're not eating meat, is addressed by this plant-based sort of meat category. So now here, what we have seen is we have seen a company that have initiated as a product farming company, then they became a processing company, and then because of their processing capabilities, they have become a regenerative sort of a circular kind of a business. So because of this processing initiative, all their 400 growers have become regenerative agriculture growers. So that is the point I wanted to kind of communicate to you. So distribution strategy. So they sell to companies like Cargill. So they have direct distribution, and they also work with distributors and innovative food processors that basically cater to or that use their ingredients. So it will be like, if you have Cargill as the customer, they will contribute to 30, 40, 50% of the capacity. To the best of my knowledge, Cargill has also invested in their processing facility. So they're one of the investors in their processing facility. So they were also trying to sell direct to consumers, because plant-based proteins could also be made at home. You will see, if you go to YouTube and say plant-based meat, you will see a lot of recipes on how to make meat, plant-based meat, all by yourself. Of course, the recipe and the texture and all of it may not match the what you can buy in the stores, but typically you can make it. So there is this trend also in the US, where people are buying these protein powder, soy protein powder, and then using it to make plant-based meats. I tried that experiment once. I did not succeed very well, but I went through that process of understanding how it is done. So complementary partnerships, so efficiency and traceability that comes because of their seed breeding innovation, their grower partnerships, crop monitoring and traceability technology partnerships, and customization. That's where they have this in-house research and development capability, and then processing innovation also. So for Cargill, for example, I understood that they have a very specific processing flow, as opposed to their other customers, right? So those kind of customizations, if you are committing for long term contracts, it is very much possible to buy customization, which is why plant based protein companies are raising 200 million, 500 million, 1 billion. Bill Gates has invested significantly in this kind of initiatives. So these are a very trendy initiative, or these were very trendy initiatives in the last 10, 15 years in US and in Europe. There are a few companies that are struggling, but very few companies that are doing well also in this category. So it's a very interesting space. I don't know. I don't think the emerging markets will have that level of adoption for the plant-based meat protein. But especially in Africa, as much as I understood, uh, there will be some adoption, but I don't think it will be a mass adoption. In India, also, there is some adoption, but it is not a mass adoption. Africa would have a lesser adoption than a country like India, because India has a lot of vegetarian eaters. So that would be a big target segment to cater to or try to cater to. But Africa is predominantly a meat protein consumption sort of market. So unless the per capita meat consumption grows to significantly high levels, and the health and wellness takes over in a big way, plant protein is not going to be a mainstream product in many emerging markets, is what I. But what is important here is not to understand the market for plant protein, but to understand that to make regenerative agriculture successful, you need to have the market taken care of. Now, Puris has made the regenerative agriculture for 400 farmers successful because of their capacity in the market. So that's the key message that you need to understand. So if you are proposing regenerative agriculture for your farmer base as extension experts, you have to make it happen from a market side, based on a market demand. That's the main principle or the main story. So, as I have done in all other case studies, I've used this as the base, partnerships as the base. So, recipe and processing innovation for customization, they might need that kind of collaboration of sorts. Seed breeding, innovation for nutrition customization, crop monitoring and traceability technology, grower network for efficiency. So they have now 400 growers. Now, if they want to cater to more customers and they want to build more factories as the demand for plant protein grows, they need to increase their grower network. So these are all the uh, partnerships that they would require, and then they process it here. And then Puris is also one of the grower. I think they still do a lot of growing, but more importantly, research growing for their grower network. And then, of course, they sell directly to customers, and now they are doing for consumers as well. But that is more of an experiment that will not contribute more than 5% or 3% of their total sales direct to consumer. So this is the value chain partnership design for Puris. Maybe I should pause a little and take some of your questions before I move forward. Any questions that you may have? Yeah, any questions?
Dear Vijay, thank you for the good presentation
Yeah.
and interesting. Yesterday, I was just reading something on agroecology.
Mm-hmm.
Question which I was always thinking: is it possible for agroecology or for regenerative agriculture to be done at an industrial scale? Like, can it support an industrialization? Because, like for Tanzania, we want to be an industrial country where we shall require high productivity. And one of the initiative is promoting agroecology. Can it support like the production to meet industrialization, like productivity wise, the yield? Is it good when compared to the alternative of using industrial? And probably my fellow extension officers can assist in providing their ideas.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Maybe we should take the perspective of the extension experts also. But See, this is an industrial value chain. You see, the one that I'm building now. Can you call the production in agroecology? Yes and no, because they are still crops focused, but they are doing crop rotation. So there is an element of agroecology to it, but do they satisfy all the principles of regenerative agriculture? Maybe not, right? So agroecology, in a sense, all these six principles, in some sense, has to be fulfilled, right, for the agroecology to be sort of mainstream, I would think. So for it to be called agroecology in a big way, right? So these six principles. Now, are the farmers of um, of Puris satisfying all these six principles? Possibly not. Is it an industrial value chain? Yes. So I would say the market has to be deciding that, and that's my. So because when the market is pulling, I think anything is possible, because I am now seeing uh, huge rice plantations in Nigeria, for example. uh, Again, Olam is involved in it, but then because Olam is involved in it, a lot of other companies are getting involved in it. So what I have learned from my this 15 years of engagement in the sector is, when the market is clear, lot is possible. Of course, once the market is clear, then the technology constraints, the environmental constraints can define the limits. So, within the Tanzanian context, in different regions, there could be environmental, land, and production related constraints, which could define what level of industrialization is possible and not. But if the market is demanding industrialization of some sort of industrialization would happen in using the principles of agroecology. Would all the principles of agroecology be fulfilled by an industrial value chain? Maybe not. But is it important for all the principles to be fulfilled for an industrial value chain? Maybe not. Again, so as I said, you don't have to be an ideal regenerative value chain, or you don't have to be a fully what I would call a chemical oriented, or artificially produced value chain. So you basically have to find the right balance, most importantly, to cater to the market, is what I basically say. So, is it possible? The answer is yes. In Nigeria, they are trying. In Kenya, they are trying. I guess I'm sure in Tanzania also, there are lots of initiatives that I am hearing about. The DMA guys are in continuous touch with me, so they keep telling me what all is happening. But I have not experienced them, so I have to limit um, my conclusions around Tanzania to saying that I don't know enough about it. So possibly anyone, Atlee or others, can jump in and correct me or give the context of Tanzania for sure. So does that answer your question, Ellie? And if you have any, okay, is my voice not audible? Is it better now, Eric?
Yes, it is audible and it
Okay.
answers. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. Any other questions? That's a good question. Any other question? So, because there is always that fight that is going to be there between the agroecology principles and industrialization. But as I said, fight is not always bad. It's good in as long as you understand what you're fighting and what are the limitations that you have to continue that fight. it's a good thing, I would like to believe, right? So we can't be perfect agroecology ecosystems. We can't be, because for that to happen, not only the value chains but the consumers have to be also be ideal, right? Like, in an ideal world we can get the supply chains to become very optimal or ideal from an agroecology point of view. But how do you deal with the consumers at the level of consumers, right? So it's it's good to be ambitious, but I would like to believe that it is more easier to be market driven. But an interesting question is, consumers are going to ask more and more questions of the companies, because that's happening in Europe, that's happening in US, that I've seen that. I'm seeing that in India. I'm seeing that in several markets that I've been in South Africa. I've seen, so where consumers are questioning that, hey, what are your agriculture practices, where are you sourcing? Not all consumers, but I think there is some element of interest in consumers saying that, am I buying from the right companies, am I buying from the right value chain? That is going to increase over a period of time. So companies will be under pressure to perform better, so that is good news. But will they be ideal? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. So let me just quickly address the sustainability part of it. So soil health is an important aspect that they contribute to. So clearly, the purest value chain. So in the US, one of the major challenges now is the soil health. So the interesting aspect is value chains like this. The farmers that operate in value chains like this are performing a lot better on soil health dimensions. So that's one interesting aspect. Farmer welfare, we believe from here that, hey, because it's a US, they have huge farms, they are profitable, they are fundable, and they don't have as the same problems as the farmers, smallholder farmers. I think that is not completely true. Yes, they have, they have more access to the banks and all of it, but they are not necessarily profitable. The government policies do affect them. Markets are a challenge for them also because of their capabilities again. So because a lot of agriculture companies that I have uh, understood in the US are not necessarily market driven. There are some that are part of cooperatives like this one. This is not a formal cooperative, but purist farmers seem to be more profitable than other farmers in the region that are not part of the purist value chain. So the important aspect is, if you are organized well for the market, you are going to make money irrespective of your size, scale, and scope. If you have more size, more scale, and more scope, of course, you will multiply the profits and revenues, of course. But the principles do not change as much for a smallholder farmer versus a very huge farm. And then affordable nutrition, that is a very important aspect, both from a health point of view, but a human health point of view, but also environment health point of view, right? So the livestock is the biggest uh, contributor to the carbon emissions. I think as a category, if not as a sector, as a category, that is possibly the biggest contributor. Even agriculture contributes significantly, but even within agriculture, livestock contributes the most. So we don't have Hassan here. So there is a lot of interest in plant-based innovations, and I think the plant-based innovations that will happen in Africa would be very much around affordability and accessibility, and not so much around health, wellness, and good for the nature and good for the climate drivers. They would be in certain category of people, but not significantly, I would think. So for today, I will kind of like pause here, finish here, because we have covered all the four components. I have some dilemmas listed, but for the lack of time, I would be not be able to cover them today. But if you're interested, I will share this with you, and we can discuss it in the next meeting if you would like, because this possibly is an interesting case study for you to analyze and understand. You can study Puris separately also, like going to their website, seeing on the press what they're doing. I have designed this business model for you. Again, my uh, intention is to really tell you how easy it becomes if you are part of a value chain as a grower. If you are part of a value chain which understands the market, which shares the information about the market, which supports you to cater to the market. So that is the whole equation. Whether we study this one, or whether we study tomato jaws, or whether whichever business case I am trying to pitch to you, it's demonstrating the value of what I would call the market access, basically, and market information, market access, and support in catering to the market. Those are the key principles. Yeah. If there is a quick question, I can take it. Otherwise, we'll say I will have to say thank you, and see you next week, Friday. So, Ali, do you have any other points or any other remarks for the next week? Do you have any suggestions or any interest? We will have, I think, another 3 or 4 case study sessions before we close, and then I'll push you towards finalizing your study. So by the end of May, by the 15th of May, I would like you to finish the study. All the courses are part of your dashboard now. So if you finish all those courses, you complete the program. So then I can recommend you for the certificate from the BSN. Yes. Okay, so close to a month now, 30 days. So organize, I think, around 15 or 16 courses you have total. You try and plan it in such a way that by the 15th of May you finished. Then I can give a green signal to BSN that you have finished it, and then they can certify, right? So we'll see another 3 or 4 case studies we will do by the 15th of May. Okay. I'll think about what would be the next best case study. So there is one interesting business, a German business that is operating in several African countries, and they are doing very, very well. So they started with production. They also went all the way into processing. Now they are doing a lot of interesting things, I think. So I will look into that business, presenting that business next week. Yeah. Okay. Then we will pause here for today.